I have in the studio the head of people organizational development from North America Crop Science Syngenta. And she is none other than Debbie Tucker. Now, let me tell you here, Debbie's career spans over 20 years in human resources, including senior level roles at Colgate-Palmolive, Honeywell, Bayer, Thermo Fisher Scientific, and now Syngenta. She was appointed to the board of the Triangle Society of Human Resource Management, known as the TSHRM, as the certification chair, serving from 2018 to 2021. She also serves her community through Dress for Success as a career coach to understand women re-entering the workforce. She is a member of Delta Sigma Theta, a non-profit organization that provides community service throughout the world. And she joins us today on the Payal Nanjiani Leadership Podcast to talk about the real secret to retaining talent. Debbie, welcome to the Payal Nanjiani Leadership Podcast. It's an honor to have you here with us.
Thank you for having me today. It is an honor to be here.
You have a career that spans over 20 years. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Debbie.
Yes, I am, as you said, currently head of people and organizational development for a global company. And so the experience there has really created a passion within me for developing other people and for helping other people. And so just from a personal self, that's really what drives me. In my experience, I've really had a great opportunity to see different organizations operate in different industries in different ways. Mm-hmm. And so really excited to share how that translates into developing others.
Wow, I think that's you really achieved so much. And just earlier you and I were talking that how important it is even in our roles as a woman of color to keep doing what we are doing. Earlier when you and I spoke, we chose the topic, the real secret to retaining talent. It came from your heart. Do you feel that retaining talent is a challenge these days in the business era?
Yes, absolutely. It is one of the biggest challenges every CHRO and CEO has today. So if you really think about it, for the past 24 months, we have been in what I call in the middle of a worker revolution. So as a part of this whole pandemic that happened globally in the past 24 months, employees have left their jobs at an alarming rate to take on very different roles or even just left the workforce entirely. And so if we think about why behind that, really people have been operating under very extreme circumstances for a long time. People are getting exhausted. And so they started searching for work that really brought them personal meaning, something that really aligned with their personal values. And right now, every 1 in 4 workers are really already searching for that next opportunity. And when we think about the why behind it, it is the company culture. Employees have really said, I want something different in life. This pandemic has made me think about different things. And wanting that something different really starts with culture.
So when you say that, are you seeing a particular generation of workforce wanting this, looking out for culture and trying to hop jobs, or is it just anyone across the company?
It is really our millennial generation and the next level generation X and Y, but I'm going to focus on the millennials because what they really brought to the workforce was something totally different. Their expectations changed how companies think. They wanted things to be different in the culture. If you remember years ago, companies were trying to accommodate them, and I laughed because they all put in the beanbag chairs and the foosball tables. Yeah. But that really wasn't enough. This generation was saying, I want a part in the decision making. I want to know where my career is going. I want that next advancement opportunity. I really want to be in the boardroom when you give a presentation, right? It used to take 20 years to do that. And this generation said, want it now. And so they really have shifted how we think about the workplace.
So you're saying that the type of company culture they are looking at is something which is very inclusive for them to be around and challenges that they are looking for in the company.
Absolutely, that is spot on. And when we are not able to provide that, as the different companies have obviously demonstrated because we weren't ready for it, these millennials exit the company and they go
Mm.
to that next opportunity that provides them this. And this is the leaders of the future.
Okay. So you mentioned that they are looking for the company culture. Right now, they are leaving the company jobs, they are taking up different roles, and they are, the entire workforce is now, the entire concept is changing. Apart from the company culture, what else are these employees looking for? That's one thing we would like to know is, uh, you said millennials, right? So now let's just expand it to anybody in the company. We are hearing about the great resignation, like you and I spoke. We are hearing of these quiet quitting. So what are these employees really looking for?
Yeah, there are actually three things they're looking for. And it's quite interesting. When I was looking at information on the Great Resignation, there was about 54 million people that left their roles because they weren't getting these very three simple
Whoa.
things. Yes, amazing. I could not believe that statistic. And there was no difference really between men and women. I know we may talk a little bit about that later,
Hmm.
but there are three very simple secrets for that. Number one is adequate work-life balance. And it's very
Wow.
interesting. I've had employees say to me, every company gives me that employee value proposition.
Hmm.
One of the promises to me is work-life balance.
Hmm.
Well, employees have said to me, Debbie, there is no work-life balance. It's
I
one
was
or
just
the
going to come
other.
to that.
Yes, yes. They're like, I'm leaving because I choose life over work.
Hmm.
And when we really start to think about that reality, that's part of what people want. They want to take care of their family, of their children, of their parents.
Right.
And so work is no longer this all consuming
Hmm.
everything I do to get the gold watch 30 years later and a certificate saying thank you very much. Our lives have changed. And so we know that focus has to be on family. And as we shift that back, that first area is we have to be more human and more caring about what people have outside of the workplace. And
Hmm.
so in this environment, the first thing I'm having employees ask when they are looking for a job, is this a remote opportunity? Do I get to flex
Wow.
my schedule? How much
Yeah.
time do I have off? Can I work on the beach on my laptop? And so it's a real issue. Yes.
So Debbie, do
I
you
would
think COVID has brought about this change in the thinking of the people?
Yes, that is a great question. COVID has absolutely brought about this change
More
because if you think,
realization.
yes, it helped everybody to realize what's really important. Before the pandemic,
Mm,
people were traveling every week, leaving families behind. People
mm.
were working insane amount of hours a week,
Yeah,
60 hours, 20-hour weeks, missing children, school plays, events,
yeah,
family functions, work on the weekends. You can stand in the grocery store line and see people on their cell phone
yeah,
taking work calls, texting in line.
yeah.
Well, when the pandemic hit, we were all home and it made us all think about what's really important
It
in
is.
this
Yeah.
time and how do I manage it all. So absolutely that's had a big impact on this.
No, and you're so right. When we started off, there was nothing like a work-life balance. Then in our generation, we heard about the work-life balance, and we all started to think that that's what life is. You've got to balance your work and you've got to balance your home. And then came a generation that was like, there is no work-life balance. Just give it your all at work, and that's what how life is. And now from you, we are learning so much that now it's really not any work life balance. They want a life, and life is not just work for them. So I think that's so well put. Any other reasons that you feel that, what are employees looking for?
Yeah, Yes, absolutely. This thing they're looking for is adaptable leadership that create that psychological safety. And so psychology really define that as you're in an environment where you're encouraged to speak up about your ideas, your questions, your concerns. It's okay. It's feel like you can bring your best self there. Employees are looking for that. And, if you think about during the pandemic, where we may have pre-pandemic had a culture where you couldn't bring up new ideas every day or different ways to do things or change everything that a company did. During the pandemic, especially in the life sciences area, that was something that had to be done. So, for example, my experience in there, I never heard a person say before the pandemic, raise their hand in the room and be the first one to say, you know what? It takes 15 years to develop a new medicine. Let's try to do it in under a year.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did, and the scientists did do it.
Exactly. And you key point, it was the right time to do it and to start that new breakthrough thinking. And employees in the workplace took that. And so now people are saying, I want that kind of safe environment. We can't go back. Let's create, innovation and new ideas, and let me just feel free to speak up and say the most insane idea that's out there and be accepted and have a company to try it. And so that adaptable leadership is just very, very key to that second thing, to get in and retain employees.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense now, like what you're putting all together. And before that, you also mentioned about the female talent and the male talent. So, do you see a challenge in retaining female talent versus male talent?
Yes, there is definitely a challenge
Okay.
in
And what is that like, and why is it so?
Yeah, I tell you, that really, if you think about it, 47% of our global workforce is women.
Yeah.
So women only represent about 23% of management. And so a part of that is that our company policies and practices and approaches are really created by a majority group that doesn't have that same unique challenge of childcare, caretaking. And so there was a study done by McKinsey about state of women in the workplace, and what it was really showing that women have higher exit rates due to family obligations. And that is one of the key reasons that we have had difficulty as a company, organization, and a society about retaining women in the workplace. So, for example, if your husband's moving to take a new job in a new state, or family decisions that you stay at home to nurture and grow your young children, taking care of elderly parents and generations, organizations really have to find a better way to accommodate those life situations and retain female talent. So during the period of last year that we call the Great Resignation, a lot of women were leaving when companies were asking people to come back to the office.
True.
They're like,
Absolutely.
we've been doing this for 2 years. Yes. So we have to do better as organizations to find ways to work and manage and help all talent through that.
Yeah, and I think that we are also seeing a lot of this female talent. Even if they are given opportunities by the organization to grow and to get into different positions, like you said, it's the obligations at the home that is keeping them from taking up those positions. So I think in a lot of way there has been an internal shift that has happened where women also want that flexibility to work from home, to balance. I would not say balance now, but to make sure that they have the right support system so that they can move ahead in their career. And like you rightly said, I just love the facts and the numbers that you are giving, because it's pointing us in the direction that even today, women are women are still not able to cope up with the demands that are happening around them in the society. So I think that is such a great pointer that you have brought out, Debbie. So just moving ahead, what are some ways now that organizations can keep the talent from walking away? That's the secret, like we really want to know that what is it that we can do so that we can retain top talent, we can retain talent across the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's one key secret, and then I'll cover the other quick areas, but it's having regular conversations with employees. We talk about proactive stay interviews. And
Yeah,
it's been out there, but so many employers or leaders, going back to the leadership that we talked about, say, I don't have time to do it.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting though, just in my experience in HR, how many times have I had a manager charge down the hall, run into my office and say, oh my goodness, my top employee just gave me their resignation. I can't have them leave. They're responsible for all of the sales. How much money can we give them to have them to stay here? And I tell you, inside I laugh because I've done this before, had a manager to do that. We went through all of this weeks of negotiations to get him to stay. And he did stay, but he stayed for 3 months and left again. And this is what I told the manager. I said, nothing has changed in our culture or in our organization. 3 months, 6 months back, 1 year. The reason the employee is leaving has less to do about money. It's more about flexibility, adaptable leadership, that third area of having an employee voice in the company's direction, feeling that you're valued and that you're mattered. And I told the manager, had you had the regular proactive stay interviews to simply say, how's it going today? How do you feel about your career? Is there more that you want to do? How can we leverage and maximize all of the skills you bring to us, not just one? So those conversations are critical. And I would encourage any leader to look at their team, start having those conversations, and it is a proactive way to retain talent.
And you also mentioned, Debbie, that a lot of times we come back and say, hey, I don't have time to do these stay interviews. But I think you will be using up a lot of your time later on to hire someone, then keep the same employee. So might as well you give the time to the current employee. And I love what you said, do the proactive stay interview. That is less time consuming than actually going out there and now finding another employee, replacing them, training them, and just getting them all, started off again.
That's an excellent point you bring up, that return on investment. How much does it cost to replace that employee? How many sales have you lost while that employee is gone? You bring up a good point.
Of that. Yeah, we don't think of that, right? So that's a very good pointer that you have. What other ways can we keep our talent in the organization and help them, to stay with us, stick with us?
That's other thing is development. Employees, even employees who may say, I don't want to advance. I love what I'm doing. I want to stay here. That other thing, in addition to the stay interviews, is developing your people. Every employee wants to learn, wants to grow, wants to do more. From the manufacturing floor to the boardroom, we're human. We are intrigued by those new things, by learning technology, by being involved. Find ways to develop your employees. And we have a 70-20-10 model just in the industry that most companies use to develop people. 70% is really on the job. Let people cross-train, have them go to another department and learn something new, put them on a team. 20% is really through social networks, coaching, mentoring programs. And then the 10% is really the classroom training that most are used to. But there are so many ways, if you look at that 70% on the job, to develop employees and keep them from walking away.
That's right. And you also mentioned, Debbie, early on, that a lot of these employees, whether male or female talent, are looking for flexibility in the job, right? Like basically, can we get a hybrid model or work from home for most of the days? Do you think companies are going ahead with providing this benefit, or are we still stringent on it?
Yes, we are very slow as a society to move because, and I think part of that was, post-pandemic, when companies started opening up their doors, a lot of them had the challenge of, uh-oh, I've been paying for all of this real estate.
Yeah,
I want companies. I own these facilities. I want
true.
them to come back into the office. At
Yeah.
the same time, there was a little bit of a revolution in the background where, women were absolutely raising their hand on that flexibility. And men who had maybe traveled in a job every week, enjoyed having lunch with the family, reconnecting back in, said, no, no. But what I am finding is companies are slowly turning the corner because of the retention and actually attraction of talent. They are starting to look for more flexibility to say, yes, here's where we can have remote positions.
Yeah.
Here's what we can do. And I think the tech industry has been more ahead of the
It
rest
has,
of the
yeah.
industry to do that exactly for remote. But there are other organizations are starting to actually look at remote and hybrid work as a critical factor in retaining talent.
And I think people have realized, that you can have four types of water choices in the cafeteria, or a great lunch. But ultimately, I think after they began working from home, everybody has realized that the four types of water choices really doesn't make too much of a difference in the life. So, organizations now, like you said, need to be a little quicker in readapting to what the employees want, rather than feeling that, hey, you know what, I've invested in all of this real estate, and I've invested in building this cafeteria and the gym and everything, and I need to pull my people back. And I think people have started to work very well from home for most of the time. And I do see some companies giving this benefit completely, that this is one of the best benefits now they are giving. So I couldn't agree with you more on this, Debbie. What would be your advice to people who want to succeed in their career?
Yeah, great question. And my advice, and I'll say it twice because I want every person listening to hear it. Take control of your own career. And I will say it again, take control of your own career. It's really critical because a lot of times employees feel like I will sit here and wait for my leader to take control of my career and to tell me my next career move, and to, tell me, hey, you've got a skill here and develop there. And quite frankly, we're all human. Leaders are human, as I say.
Yeah.
They really don't know. You know best where you need to develop, what your aspirations are. Put it on paper and take control of your career through your line leader, through mentorship, through networking with others, and find out what's out there to help you succeed.
Wow, I haven't heard this in years, Debbie. I'm so glad you brought this out. I think it's just a reminder to all of us that we are just going from one role and one position to another. And, we are just being remote controlled. But when you take control of what you want, I think that just becomes a game changer. So thank you for putting that out, And so we are at that segment, and I love this segment, Debbie. It's the leadership rapid fire, where you're on the hot seat, where I would like that you just give very quick answers to what comes to the top of your mind, and see how it goes. So would you like to do the leadership rapid fire?
Perfect. I'm there.
Oh, okay, great. So not to put the leaders on the spot, but the biggest leadership myth you've ever heard?
People are born leaders.
That's still, people still feel that, right?
Yes, they do. They do. Biggest myth.
You being from HR, you would know this best. One thing that motivates you to get out of bed every single day?
I have the opportunity to help someone discover something new about themselves.
Wow. Do you do that in your role every day?
I do that in my role every day, which is why I love my role, whether it's a training session, just a one-on-one discussion, a career conversation. And when people say, oh, I never thought about that, just talking about their brand, I help them discover something new.
It just gives them that aha moment, and I think that makes you feel so blessed to do what you're doing. Perfect. What is your favorite part of being a leader?
has been the ability to positively impact organizations and see not only the organization, but individuals grow personally and professionally when you bring in that personal part.
Okay. Which superpower would you choose? Invisibility or mind reading?
Invisibility. I want to hear what employees are saying behind the scenes that they need from the organization without the executive filter.
Oh, that's nice. I think as an HR, that becomes such an important part of the role, that you want to know people more and more. So I love that invisibility. You would be everywhere behind knowing exactly what's going on. And that helps in policy making, isn't it then?
It does. It's without the executive filter. By the time things
Yeah.
float all the way up through the organization, it has been massaged and navigated into these lovely verbiage of words that you sometimes don't know what people want is
Okay.
invisibility.
We lose the authenticity of that then. Your biggest leadership pet peeve?
I have two. Um, Creating complexity, I would pick that. It's my pet peeve because most people concerns are really simple to solve. We make it complex. We take 3 weeks and it's a moonshot. So creating complexity.
Wow, you are so spot on. I mean, the things that you say seem so simple, but barely people do it. So you're just helping us to realize how simple things are. If you could travel back in time, but you said there's one more pet peeve, right?
Yes, my other pet peeve, pettiness,
Okay.
is if organizations focus on the big events that create change. Who cares who gets an office with a window and how many square footage it is? Seriously?
That's a good one. But let me ask you one more. If you could travel back in time and change one thing about the corporate world, what would you change?
I would say simplification.
Mm.
We're in a land of technology now. We should be simplifying processes and structures and all of the hierarchies we have. I think we could get things done in 4 hours versus 16 hours.
Mm, absolutely. And I think that's where everybody's time goes. And I hear people saying, I'm not able to innovate. I'm not able to do something big because all my time is going in my day-to-day transactional work rather than any transformation that I could make. So I need to have you back sometime to speak about simplification because you mentioned that a couple of times. And I think it is so needed these days, Debbie.
Absolutely. It is.
Wow.
It is. I've enjoyed this. The time has flown by. So
Yeah.
thank you for having me.
Exactly. I mean, the conversations we had and the examples you've given, the tips that you've given, I think it's such an eye opener to so many things of how do you retain talent. So thank you so much, Debbie, for being a part of this podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. And this one's for our listeners. This is Debbie Tucker and Payal Nanjiani wishing you loads of success in your career life. God bless.